Hello friends, it's Greg here again on the Blue Feather Ephemera channel. I have an eBay store by the same name where I sell vintage magazine print advertising, and every week I make a video to show you what's sold in that eBay store. This week that intro screen looks a little bit different because I've moved things around to cut out some redundancy and speed things along. Uh, this is the 31st What Sold video that I've made, and this is the 34th week of 2024. Since we always talk about weekly sales totals in the weekly recap screen anyway, that's where you'll continue to find it. Our bonus topic this week is going to be struggling with categories, where I'll be talking to you about establishing store categories and the struggle to find the right category for different print ads. So stay tuned for that. Right now, let's take a look at those ads. First up, we've got this nice movie promo from Look Magazine 1943. And in the picture here, you see Humphrey Bogart. He is a sergeant major. And when you read the story of this film, it says that it follows the story of the first U.S. tank crew assigned to the British 8th Army. And then it goes into some detail about the filming of this movie, Sahara. And it talks about the challenges that they encountered in California's Imperial Valley. As you read into the detail here, it says that a desert cloudburst and also a 3-day sandstorm were some of the challenges that they encountered. The rain washed out 7 miles of desert road just completed by the studio crew, and then the sandstorm blew away 200 tons of Hollywood drifts arranged by wind machines. But it gave Korda, famous for his desert films, what he considers the most thrilling storm shots ever photographed. With cameras swathed in blankets and crews masked with dust respirators, he got on celluloid the hacking horror of wind and sand. So, sounds like a real interesting time there in that movie, Sahara. I am a fan of this movie and also a different movie called Sahara that starred Matthew McConaughey. And that movie was based on a Clive Cussler book. And if you're a fan of adventure fiction, written mainly for the male audience, then you know who Clive Cussler is and those Dirt Pit novels. Really fun stuff. But anyway, this one sold for $18.77. It's on its way to Minnesota. This next ad is also from Look Magazine. This one, 1942, and it's a black and white partial page ad. The company is Dear Kiss, and what they're advertising here is their talcum powder. When you zoom in and look at some of the content here, they tell you how to pronounce the name of the company. Thank goodness, because I wouldn't have known. It says Dear Kiss by Kirchhoff, and I read just a little bit about it. And this is a fragrance that he developed, and the company was established in Paris back in the 1800s, and they boast that they are the world's most romantic scent. So, and I said there for $10.77, it's on its way to Texas. If I were to ask, does this ad look familiar? I would hope that some of you would say yes, because that would mean that I've got some regular viewers that are coming back to watch the new videos. Some people saw this last week, an ad just like this. This is not the same piece of paper, but this is the same ad. It ran in a different month of the publication Quartermaster Review. Now, y'all know that I like to keep track of a few things, including surnames. And when a company like Wilkins matches the surname of the buyer, you can put that together and know why somebody was attracted to that ad. Well, the one I sold last week went to Washington State. The buyer's surname was not Wilkins. But when I looked at the buyer's surname for this ad, it is Wilkins, and the town name in Washington looked familiar. So I went back and looked, and it went to the very same residence address. So basically, you've got two shoppers in one household. One of them is a Wilkins. I don't know why they wanted an identical copy of the very same ad, but I'm glad they did. I sold this for $8.77. It ran in Quartermaster Review 1944, going to Washington State. And when we get to the weekly recap screen, I'm going to chalk up two surname matches there. All right. Now, here we have an interesting ad from Savage, the company that makes rifles and shotguns. Here in 1946, they're making a Super Chief lawnmower. And this brings up a couple of different things in this ad that we can talk about that relate to history that I think are pretty interesting. And we won't spend much time on it here. But this ran in House Beautiful 1946. What you see here is the lady of the house is out cutting the grass, and she says, "Imagine me enjoying this." Yes, the lady of the house can mow the lawn now if she really wants to. And it just talks about how easy this lawnmower is to operate. Now, there's interesting history here for a couple of reasons. The war years were very liberating socially for women. They got out of the home. They were no longer relegated to the homemaker role. So they were doing things outdoors, maintenance, lawn and garden, all that kind of stuff. More and more women were driving cars, holding down jobs in stores, factories, schools, you name it. And so after the war in 1946 here, they're not looking back. They're basically like, no, we're not getting back in the kitchen. We're going to do our thing. And so this is kind of reflective of that. And then down here at the bottom, you see this PS, and it says that it's a streamlined beauty, noiseless, efficient, built by gun craftsmen. And that's just indicative of what happened all across American manufacturing right after the war. All of these companies that had added capacity, hired workers, built new facilities and factories and all of that, well, after the war and war production stopped, they had to transition those into some kind of a civilian production. And so this is one of the things Savage did is they started to make lawnmowers. So anyway, interesting history there. $12.77 sent this nice ad to Indiana. Here is one beauty of an ad from 1937. This ran in Fortune magazine. It's for a company called Thompson Products. And in the early days of aviation, Thompson was the premier maker of some internal engine components, specifically rods and valves for those aircraft engines. And they're probably the part of the engine that is most subject or most prone to failure. And so, if you are the best maker of them, then you've got a really lucrative business. And Thompson did a good business in the early part of the 20th century. So, what you're looking at here is an advertisement for that company, and they are the sponsors of an annual race called the Race for the Thompson Trophy. And it mentions here a race that occurred at Los Angeles. The 1937 race was in Cleveland, but when you go down and take a look at the details here, it says the cash prize $27,000. It's on a closed race course. You've got several airplanes at low altitude and at high speeds, and it's pretty dangerous stuff. But over on this the right side of the trophy, it says dedicated to the development of higher airspeeds combined with practical maneuverability and safety. Um, well, these aircraft, they were designed to be very maneuverable at high speeds. What I've read about those aircraft, though, is what made them maneuverable at high speeds made them a bear to fly at low speeds. So there was a lot of crashes on takeoffs and landings with these aircraft. The other thing that I want to mention here, and I touched on it in a different video, uh, this ad, by the way, sold for $34.77. It has a small condition issue right up here at the top. you see some discoloration right there at the top left side of the page. And then there's a little scuff mark right here near the top right. If not for those condition issues, I would have doubled the price basically on this, put $68 on it, because it really is that fabulous. Um, what I touched on before, and here you can get a better, well, actually, I've got a better picture than that right here. We're going to zoom in and take a look at this Thompson trophy here, because I mentioned it in a different video, and I'm going to link that video at the top of the page, because the ad that I have listed right now that I've priced the highest is a Thompson ad from 1936. The topic is also these air races for the Thompson Trophy. It doesn't have any condition issues, and it's actually the content is a little bit more stellar. So I priced it at $134.77. I'm going to link a video at the top so you can go look at that if you want to. But anyway, this trophy here, I went to the National Air and Space Museum and read a little bit, or the website, and read a little bit about this trophy, and it was described in the online museum topic about the Thompson air races. At the top of this trophy is the sunburst. You've got eagles flying out of clouds. They describe this as an angel, a male angel. I mentioned in the video that I did on it that I thought this might be a reference to Icarus from Greek mythology, but they just call this an angel. But anyway, beautiful ad, great subject matter. You're going to see Thompson again in this video, but not because I sold a Thompson ad. I sold a different ad, but I'll let you see in just a few minutes why I mentioned Thompson there. Anyway, a great ad here. It's on its way to Washington. Here's one of my favorite sales of the week, because I was able to exchange some messages with the buyer and kind of get a handle and an understanding of what the appeal of this ad was to him and what motivated him to buy it. This is a Westclock's Big Ben clock, the company based in La Salle, Peru, Illinois. Shows the rooster here, and he's crowing, "Big Ben, you're needed right now in every farm home." And in the detail of the text, it talks about how every hour of daylight is worth money. It goes on over here on the right side to say that there is a family of Big Ben clocks, and they've got different options for the type of alarm, and also for power, because they've got the winding clock, and now they've got an electric clock, and so on. Um, I'm going to show you the feedback that I got from the buyer, because this ad is going to be used in a display, and we'll take a look at what the buyer, the customer, has in mind for that. So in the messages that he sent, he included pictures. What he does is he'll find an old clock like this one in the picture. Uh, this photo that he sent is an actual clock that he bought to repair, and he worked his magic, and it ended up the clock on the right. So he's cleaned it up. He's taken old parts from other parts clocks and added a crystal and made new workings for the inside of the clock and all of that. Now he's going to go display it in a show, and he's going to display the old clock together with its advertising from 85 years ago. And so it's going to look really nice together. It's just, this is an example of why people buy ads: to accessorize a collection or to augment a hobby. And I think it's a really cool thing. So I wanted to show you. The ad ran in Capper's Farmer Magazine, 1940, and $10.77 sent it to Georgia. This ad is also from 1940, and even though it's black and white, you can tell by the freckles on the little boy that he's got red hair. So that's what I put in the title of the listing: red hair and freckles, boy Cupid. and the product is Colgate Ribbon Dental Cream. In the story here that they tell in the advertisement, I think it's funny how they try to portray the way they talked back in the 1940s. The little boy says, "Look it, sis, what you want to go and hang icicles on a good guy like George for?" And she says, "Tommy, Cupid hasn't got a chance against bad breath." So I think that's kind of funny. Of course, he runs and tells Tommy, and Tommy goes and talks to the dentist, and the dentist explains all you got to do is brush twice a day with Colgate. So, uh, problem solved, relationship forged, and now Sis calls the little red-headed boy Cupid. So, a cute little ad, $12.77, sent it to Virginia. Next up is this ad from Life Magazine 1954. The company is the Blue Cross Insurance Company, and they have or what they're advertising a protection plan against hospital bills. And in the detail of the ad here, you've got this happy little girl and her nurse, but then you've got this little, I think it's a boy, and his leg looks awful. So he he's not smiling like the little girl is, but I can see an ad like this in an insurance agent's, den or workplace at home, or in a field office or a regional office for an insurance company. It don't have to be pretty to sell. It don't have to be popular to sell. There's a market out there for just about any ad. So when you come to something like a health insurance ad, don't call it. Go ahead and list it. I sold this one for $23.77. It's going to South Carolina. Next up is this advertisement from 1962. It ran in True Magazine, and the product is Quinsana Athlete's Foot Powder, and it's a product made by the Menon Company, the same company that makes the skin bracer and aftershave lotion. In the detail of the ad here, you can see this fellow. He's applying some medicine that burns and stings on his toes there, but it says don't try to burn off athlete's foot when you can use the soothing painless Quinsana powder. $10.77 sent this to a repeat customer in California. Next up, we've got another clock advertisement. All I can say is, boy, what a difference 15 years makes, because that last clock that we looked at, the Big Ben clock from 1940, has a very distinctive look that's kind of on the tail end, I think, of what you'd call the Art Deco style. And then here, you've got these Zenith clocks in the mid century modern style. And right in smack in the middle of the 1950s, 1955, you've got the best color palette ever was. You've got mainly pastels. You've got this dusty pink on the bottom left here, and I don't know if that's a pastel blue or a maybe a mint color there. But then also up here at the top, that's a off-white, probably what you'd call ivory, and the dials on this clock appear to be maybe a shade of that pastel yellow. So mid-century modern 1955, fantastic look to it. And look at all these knobs and dials and how fancy it is, and uh, just a great ad. This one ran in Collier's Magazine. I sold it for $14.77. It's going to California. Here's a fun ad with just a little bit of a story. Pepsi Cola 1943. This ad ran in the Quartermaster Review. And being a military publication, you see a soldier sitting on the crate here. He's taking a break. And it says, in the Army, plenty, plenty, plenty. That's the order of the day. It repeats Pepsi Cola three times as well. Pepsi Cola, Pepsi Cola, Pepsi Cola. And it says, keep it on ice and it sells itself but fast. And so that's talking about the people who order Pepsi for the canteens and the PXs and other places where soldiers buy their stuff. So I wanted to mention here real quick, the Pepsi logo here, the Pepsi double dot. You see the looks like a colon between Pepsi and cola here, was called the double dot logo in the 1940s and 50s. And I read something interesting that said that they used a double dot as it kind of alluded to the fact that Pepsi beat Coca Cola to use the 12-ounce bottle, because when Coca Cola only came in 6-ounce bottles, Pepsi had started using 12-ounce bottles. So you got double the amount of cola, and they went with the double dot logo. I don't know about the exact timing, but it's interesting if true. I'll say that because I only read for just a little bit. But anyway, a nice ad, $10.77. It's on its way to New York. Here's a really neat sale right here. This ran in Model Aircraft News from 1940. And this is not an advertisement. This is just the kind of thing that they put into that magazine. I pieced a couple of these out, the nicer ones, and put them up in listings as magazine prints. And so in the picture here, you can see this plane. It's a model of a Curtiss R2C1. I use the word deco in the description because this 1940 still on the end of that Art Deco design period that I mentioned when we were talking about the clocks. When you look at the detail here, just really, really nice design. It's visually interesting, and it's going to display great when it's framed. So that was an exciting sale. I sold it for $23.77, and it's going to Tennessee. On the topic of magazine prints, I've got two more also. This is one of them. This is Quartermaster Procurement Installations, places for storage and the distribution of military goods and hardware and provisions and all of that kind of stuff. This ran in the Quartermaster Review magazine, 1943, and we'll take just a little bit of a look at it here. It's got West Coast installations at Oakland and at Miraloma, and then Ogden, Utah, Seattle, Washington, Fort Robinson, Nebraska, Leavenworth, Kansas, Reno, Oklahoma, Fort Worth, Texas, and San Antonio. I mean, just a bunch of these places. You can see they're especially clustered around the East Coast port facilities there, where they were shipping all of that hardware and the equipment, ordnance, and other provisions to Europe as well. So, real interesting ad. A lot of history here, and I sold it for $21.77. It went to a repeat customer in Missouri. All right. This ad right here tricked me because I said I had two magazine print illustrations coming up. I said that because so many of these maps from the 1940s are only illustrations. This map that I sold, though, is an advertisement for the American Export Ship and Airlines. It's a world routes map, and it ran in Fortune magazine 1941. And the company says it's serving today and building for tomorrow. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit right here because uh, it says the company is turning plans into reality. In the various routes here that it explains in this box, it discusses steamship routes. And I'll show you, for example, route number 3 says American Export Lines, New York to India, Burma steamship service, regular semi-monthly sailings each direction, fast timetable, cargo service. So let's find that on the map. Departing New York here, route number 3, you can see here that it goes down around Cape Town, South Africa, and it goes up to Karachi and Bombay, Madras, Rangoon, Burma, and Calcutta. So that's interesting. And then the airline operations, route number 9, for example, American Export Airlines, New Orleans to Havana route, Havana Cristobal route, New York, Nassau, Kingston Cristobal route. All of these new shortcut routes are now under flight survey. So going back to let's see, it originated in New Orleans. So route number 9 there from New Orleans to Havana, all down through the Caribbean and back up to New York City. So you can see that on the map there. It's very interesting. And I sold this for $48.77, and it's on its way to a buyer in Kentucky. But I'm going to show you one more thing about this ad, something we've discussed in past videos. And what that was that we talked about was what's on the back of the page in that video with the bonus topic called B-side hits. We talked about how tough it is sometimes to make a decision between selling what's on the front of the page and what's on the back of the page. We heard actually in the comments from a seller who is listing both front and back, and it's possible. Like I said, it takes a smarter person than me to do that and keep up with it and make sure that I don't make mistakes. But I'm going to show you here that there's some fantastic things to look at on the back of these pages. So the American Export ad is a 2-page ad, and on screen now is the advertisement that's on the back of the left side, and it's for Thompson products. You remember I told you you'd be seeing one again. I chose not to list the Thompson products. There's great history in this ad as well, but I went with the map. It was kind of a 50-50 call. This Thompson's, it has a lot of history in it because you see here a Royal Air Force fighter plane, and there's a pair of, I guess, Messerschmitt fighters that are coming around on his tail, and the pilot's saying, "Come on, horsepower." And in the text, it says skill and daring count, but the odds favor the pilot who rides behind an engine with an edge in speed and stamina. And so that's where it goes on to talk about the Thompson products that are built into the aircraft engine. It's showing a Royal Air Force fighter plane here because at that point in World War II, like I said before, we hadn't entered yet. But we had some American pilots who were flying for the English, and we also had some American pilots out in the Pacific, uh, in China, the Flying Tigers fighting against the Japanese. But we weren't officially in the war yet, and so you don't see an aircraft in this picture with U.S. markings. So anyway, good history here, very neat. But like I said, I went with the American Export ad. Here's the other one that I passed on that's the back of the other page. On the right hand side, this other page is also about aircraft engines. This advertisement here is from the Continental Motors Company. They made Red Seal aircraft engines, and in the picture, it shows a mother eagle hovering over the nest as her fledgling eaglets take to the air for the first time. And it says, when man takes wings, encouragement and confidence must needs come from the conviction that the power at his control is utterly dependable. And so, real nice picture there. In the background, you can see an airplane that's flying over a field, casting a shadow on the ground. There's another plane on the ground and a hangar, mountain range in the back. Just fantastic art, really nice. Um, Tough decision as usual with those B-side hits. But anyway, I wanted to show you what I did there, and maybe you found it interesting. Now we'll close out the weekly sales portion of the video with this one here from McCall's Magazine, 1969. This is an advertisement for Canada Dry, and Anne Margaret is the celebrity endorsement here. She's wearing a fur coat. There is mention here of her upcoming special from Hollywood with Love, and that was going to guest star Dean Martin and Lucille Ball on Saturday, December the 6th. But it says, when Anne Margaret entertains, she gives you her best. And when it's a party, that means serving Canada Dry. So a nice ad there. $14.77 sent this to Maryland. Here on the weekly recap screen, you can tell I had a good week. I had 15 ads sold for a total of $278.55. The number of sales was down, but the average sales price was up. And so I was happy about that. I had two surname match sales. Now, remember, we only looked at that one Wilkins ad, but I'm claiming credit from last week because I felt cheated back then. So I'm taking two, by golly. And for the advertiser and customer city match, none this week. No global shipping program sales this week, but I did have two repeat customers. So overall, fantastic. Now we're going to switch over and talk about the bonus topic that I call struggling with categories. Let's dive headfirst into the bonus topic of struggling with categories. And as we take this plunge, I want y'all to know I'm mad. Not mad at anybody else but me. And that's because I figured out that I could have been doing things in a better way for the past, 19 months now that I've been doing this, 20 months, whatever it's been. Uh, I could have done things differently and I could have done things better. And I'm going to share with you the mistake I was making. And I guarantee 95 to maybe 99% of you all aren't making this same mistake that I am, because I decided to be stubborn and bullheaded and do things my own way instead of relying on the other folks that have been doing this longer and doing it a better way. Uh, I was kind of, well, let's back up. I list on my phone. I think I've mentioned it before, and I like it. I really do. To me, it's not as clunky as the keyboard. I may make one or two more spelling errors just because the screen is smaller, but I deal with that and I correct it every time I run across something like that. But what I didn't know is that there are things that you can clearly see on the laptop or desktop screen that you might not be able to puzzle out on the mobile app. And so the title of this bonus topic might as well be Struggling with Imposter Syndrome, because here I show up every week and I talk to you about tips and I try to give advice, I try to give good information. But when I realized that there was something that I was doing that was so simple, I should have seen it. When that goes on, I realize that I think to myself, I got no business being on here talking to people. But I hope you'll forgive me and overlook it if I've led anybody astray on this issue of categories. We're talking store categories, by the way, not eBay categories. A store category, if you've got a store subscription, you can set up categories. You can organize your listings in those categories. And when somebody comes to shop at your store, they can use your categories to maybe more readily and easily find the kind of thing that they're wanting to shop for. So we'll take a look at that more specifically in just a moment, but I'm not finished beating up on myself yet. After I got a little bit mad about the mistake I've been making, then right after that, it occurred to me, do I need to, be a little bit conniving and turn it to my advantage by creating a clickbait title screen like this one, where, I make some catchy title and put a picture of me on there grabbing my head and making some kind of goofy expression because I messed up. But I won't do that to y'all. I will go on to say, though, that I hope this is helpful if there is anybody that has the same question, because nobody told me how to address this because I never was intelligent enough to ask. This is not an issue for print ad sellers. It's not an issue for postcard or ephemera sellers or anybody else. This is an issue that applies to every eBay seller everywhere that has an eBay store. So again, I don't mean to put you off. I'll get into it in just a second. But like I said, if you're listing on a laptop, you've probably never had this issue. If you're listing on a mobile app, maybe this question has never occurred to you. So this might be most helpful for somebody that's doing that. Before we talk details, here's one more of those clickbait titles that I made. And this is only a slight exaggeration. I need to fix 9,383 listings. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but I guarantee you, uh, there are thousands of listings in my store that could be improved if I had known what I'm going to be talking about, if I had known this 20 months ago. So let's look at what I'm talking about. I'm going to start by showing you, since most of you probably don't list on the phone, I'll show you what I see on the phone as I do this. And you're looking at a listing for a model AV1 flight computer. Now, it's a computer that's used on board airplanes and well, and before takeoff as well, to compute all kinds of things that you need to know when you fly. Things like, how much fuel are you going to burn, what the headwinds are, what the temperature is, um, all that kind of stuff for dead reckoning, and the weight of your cargo and passengers, takeoff weight and airspeed, all that kind of stuff. That's what you do with this handheld computer. So um, you need it in the air. I put it in the air and space category, but it's a computer. Every other kind of computer that you don't use in the air, I've got in my electronic devices and tech category. So I've often thought, wouldn't it be great if I could put it in both categories? And most of you all are already ahead of me. You know that you can do that. I did not know. Um, I remember, because I thought about it so much and struggled with it, which is the title of this bonus topic. Because I struggled with it, I went looking and I found the discussion on eBay that says you can list in more than one category. I didn't realize that it meant also more than one store category. Every time I would go and read that more than once, it would say fees may apply. You can list in one category, and if you choose to list in a second category, you pay so much per listing, whether it sells or not, so on and so forth. I thought to myself, I don't want to do that. I stopped reading and I left. Well, on the phone, you can't see that you can list in a second store category for free. When you list on a laptop or a desktop computer, when you list on the website, it's obvious. And here's what the difference looks like. So on the mobile app, when you go to create or revise a listing and you get to the category section, it's got that little pencil there where you can edit it, and you choose your store category, or excuse me, first you choose your eBay category, and then for the store category, you pick that, and this is what you see. If I selected air and space category, then you've got that very, very faint gray line, and then you've got a hyphen. In all my born days, I never knew that a hyphen was something that you could click on and change. But I found out today, if you touch that hyphen, then it opens up the option to add a second store category. So I went for 20 months without knowing that. Now I'll show you what it looks like on the website. Now on the website, sorry, I got ahead here, but on the website, I'm on this same listing, And I've chosen to go in and revise it. And when you get down to the item category and click on edit, this is what you see. Item category, first category, second category. This is where I found before. If you choose to add a second category, there's a little charge that applies. I don't want to pay it. That's where I stopped. I didn't stop on the desktop. I figured out how to do that on the phone. But then you go down to store category, first category, air and space. And then with words, not just a little dash, but with words that the human being can read, it says second category and big as Ike. You can click on that, and it gives you the option for adding a second store category. And if I add electronic devices and tech and go to apply that and say done, there's no mention of another charge. It's free to do that within your own store. So, to make it that user friendly on the laptop and that vague on the mobile app, um, I'm not I'm not mad. I don't get mad. You can tell I'm wound up though. I'm wound up, but I'm not mad. Anyway, so that's the difference right there. And with that, I could go back and, like I said before, I could realistically um, put into multiple categories several thousand of my listings. Not all 9,000 plus, but several thousand of them would qualify. Now, it's a shame that you can only have two categories, because there are some listings that would fit into three. Like, take this flight computer right here, for example. Um, think about some celebrity pilots that John Travolta flies, and Harrison Ford flies, and what's his name, Tom Cruise flies. So if they had recruited one of those celebrities to endorse this, then you would have air and space, you would have electronic devices and tech, and you would have potentially a celebrity category. So you're limited to two. That's fine, but that's going to solve. I'm going to feel a lot better about my listings after I start using this uh, regularly. I'm not going to go back. I'm not planning on going back and putting any of my previous listings into multiple categories, but this is definitely something that I wish I had known 20 months ago. Now, as I wrap this up, I'm going to try to quickly and briefly describe to you why I'm so wrapped up in the topic of categories. When you make your listing, you're thinking about keywords, and you're putting all of that into a listing title that a shopper can use in a search to arrive at one of your listings. Okay. And so what I've done here is I've completely logged out of my store. Sorry about that. On the top left here, you can see I'm just a shopper in eBay. And I have entered in a string for telephone vintage print ad, because what I'm really looking for is I'm looking for a close up of someone dialing a payphone. That's what I need. I've got some kind of project going on, and that's the image that I'm looking for. And I'm going down this list of telephones, and I get down here, and oh, I see this nice looking ad. I can't really tell if that's a payphone. She may be in an office. That could be a payphone. I'm not sure. But this seller is some bozo named Blue Feather Ephemera. I'll look and see what Blue Feather Ephemera has in the way of payphones. So I get there, and here's a category list. I'm going to go down in the categories, and I'm going to see if there is any category for telephones. And well, there's a lot of categories here. Maybe there is telephones. I see communications. There's telephones. So let's look at the telephone ads that are available. I don't see any payphones here. Oh, there's one, but it's like a far off picture. That's not what I'm looking for. I'll go down the list here, and I don't see any payphones there. Nothing there. I'm getting close to the bottom. I don't see payphones. No, that's it. So blue feather ephemera obviously doesn't have what I want. But wait, here's a category called electronic devices and tech. My shopper has already departed, but when I click on electronic devices and tech, oh, look, there's telephones right there. And when I go down the list, oh, there's a GTE telephone in that listing. Oh, and look, a close up picture of somebody dialing a payphone. So that shopper that gave up and left because they couldn't find this under telephones didn't know that because this was an advertisement for a Panasonic VHS video recorder that you can program by telephone. They didn't know to go looking in electronic devices and tech because this wasn't in the telephone category. Now it can be in both since I learned something today that I'm passing on to you. So that's how I'll wrap up this part of the video. And I'll just say this, it's been a good day when I got frustrated because I learned something that's going to be so helpful. And I hope that what you've seen or heard here is going to be helpful to you in your store. We ain't even at part two of what I intended to talk about today. I got sidetracked. So next week's bonus topic will also be a little bit shorter version. We'll call it part two of struggling with categories because I do still have one category issue that ain't resolved, and I'm 95% certain can't be resolved by anything that I don't know. So we'll talk about that next week. As for this week, I appreciate you sticking around and watching. I hope you enjoyed reviewing the sales with me, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again next week. Bye for now. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more content like it, there's several ways to support the channel. Hit the like button. Also, share this with friends and subscribe to the channel. That way you'll be notified when new videos drop. And then also, leave a comment if you have questions or suggestions or just want to send a friendly hello. I'd love to hear from you.